Hey guys, today I am going to work on my February prompt for one little word. This collage one is always one of my favorites. I love making a mood board. It's probably the only time of year that I do a mood board, and so I thoroughly enjoy it. What I have done is I've bought some magazines. I don't buy magazines at all. This is the one time of year that I buy magazines. So I bought 3 different ones, and I'm just going to go through them now and pull out some images. I have actually read these magazines. I've had them for a couple of weeks now, so I have had a good going through them. So I feel no guilt in ripping some pages out, and that's what I'm going to do now. I finished up January with you last month. The only thing I added was this little paper clip with a bow on it just to hold my little insert piece closed with my original brainstorm copied onto it. And now I am going to finish up February. But I'm going to do things a little bit differently this month. The last couple of years I've done this mood board like in a notebook, and I totally could do it in here now. But what I actually want to do this year is make it a little bit more visible. So I want to make something a little bit larger scale that I can pop up in my room somehow. Haven't quite worked that out yet. And just so that it's a bit more visible for me, and then I will work out what I'm going to do in my album. So let's get started. So these are the 3 magazines that I've got, and this one here in particular wasn't especially helpful. I had to get it though because it had my word on the front cover, so that's why I ended up picking this out. I'm not going to make you watch this whole process because it is pretty boring, but basically I just went through each magazine and tore out the pages that had anything that I thought might even be a little bit relevant to it. So I didn't cut anything out. I literally just pulled the pages out. Like I said, I use this as an excuse to buy a few magazines, read them, and then I use them for this purpose and recycle the rest. So I'm not trying to keep anything as intact as possible. I'm not going to reuse these magazines for anything else. I just tear out the pages and then I go back through and trim out the pieces that I want. So I've got some larger images, some smaller pieces that I kind of fussy cut. I've got some words, and one of the magazines had a bunch of little watercolor backgrounds, which I pulled out anyway, just in case I might need them. I don't end up using them, but I pulled them out just in case. So what I decided to go with to sort of make my word a bit more visible is I grabbed this piece of heavy card. I think it's from the back of like a drawing paper pad, so it is really sturdy cardboard, which I thought would be good because I'm gonna glue everything down with collage medium, and any sort of thinner card would probably have warped. So I've got this thicker card and I'm just starting the process by using some of those larger images that I've got, and lots of these images do end up being too large. I think that was my problem this year, is I had a lot of super large images rather than smaller ones. So I'm working with what I've got, and like I said, I pulled out way more than I'm ever going to use, but this is the process, I guess. So I sort of started by placing all my images in kind of a grid pattern. I mean, it's not a particularly like formal grid, but that was how I decided to lay them out. I didn't want to fussy cut too much sort of around them or cut shapes or anything like that. Lots of the images tended to be sort of these thinner, narrow strips, which kind of worked nicely. And so what I'm doing is I'm just going to glue them down one by one. Like I said, I'm using some Ranger collage medium and just a flat brush, and I'm just spreading some out onto the base card, then popping the the image down, and then using the brush with whatever's left over on top to just sort of flatten everything out and add a layer of the medium on top of the image. And I started working from the left to the right, and then I changed my mind because I've got this really huge image on the right here, which I loved, good vibes only. So I've then switched tacks and I've gone from the right and I'm working back in towards the middle, just to make sure that I can fill everything up. Now I know that with collage you probably can just go straight over the top of things, not a problem, but rather than having these huge pieces underneath other images, I am choosing to use my paper trimmer and trim some of those really quite large overlaps down. So like this one, for instance, I want to try and get it as close to the right height as I can before I go ahead and glue it down, just so I don't have too many sort of bumps and lumps on here. Now I got this kind of what I'm calling the background. I've got the background of the collage sort of filled in. There's no spare card left anywhere. And then I'm going to start using some of these extra like littler images just to overlap some of those joins and corners in that background. Now, like I said, I do this once a year, so I'm no expert in collages or vision boards or anything like that. This is simply the process that I'm using right now as it happens, and I've done it different ways before. I'll link the One Little Word playlist that I have that shows all of the videos that I've done for this process, and in February every time there's a mood board. So I've done it different ways before. This is just how I'm working this year. Now I got those few little images down, and one of the things I really love about these mood board collage sort of things is I love adding words. I'm definitely a word person. The images are lovely and pretty, but I kind of respond more to the words. So as many image choices as I had far more word choices, and that's what I'm going to fill in now. I'm kind of stacking them in a few different places, but again covering up some of those harsher lines, the joins in those images. And I'm kind of, well, to me it felt like grouping. I'm grouping the sort of words together. So I've got more sort of singular words over on the left and more kind of sayings here on the right, I guess. And they do kind of read as sort of maybe like a little poem, I guess, when you read them, or they make sense as I read them from top to bottom. So that's all I'm doing. I decided to add a couple of other little words here and there. And again, I'm using the same process. I am trimming some of these down because when I cut the words out, I did tend to leave a lot of space around them just because I didn't know how I was going to use them at that point. And on this particular board, I need them a little bit smaller so they don't cover up too much of the imagery. And I'm just going to carry on this process with the words until I feel, it's just a feeling thing, I guess, really, until I feel like it's finished. Now, once I had all of those words down, I was just kind of feeling like there were some big sort of empty spaces. And when I went back through some of the imagery that I had pulled out, a lot of it was very large and sort of too large to use as fillers, I guess. So I really only found this one coffee cup image that was small enough to fussy cut out of the background so that I could add it and sort of fill up a little gap here. But I liked how that looked, and that was sort of what I wanted to do. So what I did was go through my stash, and I found a bunch of all heart stickers. I was sort of looking for them because I knew I had them in there somewhere, and I really love this particular sheet that's got all the kind of hand-drawn leaves and the pretty flowers, because I had already stuck on two sort of pink floral things on here. I thought it would work really nicely just to fill in some of those gaps. And I mean, if I didn't have those stickers, I probably could have hand drawn something. It is just line art, but I'm very glad I had the stickers and didn't have to commit to using a pen on here. It just helps to fill in some of those gaps, and then I can call my little mood board all done. So I finished my mood board, and I'll show you a little photo here. This is what I've done with it. I punched a couple of holes in the corners and added some eyelets, and I just hung that up on my wall with just a bit of twine. It's next to my letterboard, which I always keep a sort of quote about my word up anyway, so I think it looks good there. I see it as soon as I walk into my room, so I'm going to be reminded of that every day. And then, as you can see, all I did was take a photo of it before I hung it up. I put it flat on my desk and I took a photo so that I could print it out. Now I've printed out 2 pages to fit into my Life Crafted album, which didn't actually fit the middle of my mood board, so I just trimmed down in Photoshop, just cropped my photo to 5 by 8¼ on the left side and 5 by 8¼ on the right side, and it's missed out the middle, but that sort of fortuitously had nothing really of importance in it anyway. The only thing I'm really missing is this image here with the hands holding the paintbrush, but c'est la vie. I wanted it in my album. I didn't want to do any sort of fold outs. I just want it to be this visible spread. The only thing that I have added in here is I have added a page protector from Citrus Twist. This is one of their new ones that's got the little 2x2 squares on it. I've seen a couple of people in the Facebook group do something similar to this, and I was desperate to use these little page protectors. They only arrived yesterday, so I figured now would be as good a time to do it as any. I had a bunch of images left over like you saw, so some of the, well, they were quite large. I've trimmed them down to 2x2 squares, and the other thing I've added was some little letter stickers on here that said space. Now I chose these ones here because they had like a defined space, so they're little squares, which means that when I flip the page protector over, I added the same letters on the back, so you don't see the back side of any alphas, but I get my word in there twice. And as you can see, I have backed the the images on this side with some on that side. It's just an extra little thing before I throw away the rest of my clippings. And otherwise, I am super happy with how this turned out. Love the mood board. Wasn't exactly what I thought it was going to be, but I love it anyway. That tends to be the nature of these things. So let me know down below whether you have made a mood board yourself this year, whether you enjoyed the process or what you struggled with, and I will see you all next time. Bye guys.